God willing, as we shall return.
Welcome to the fourth Artemis podcast. I don't know what to say. Fourth Artemis.
Hey, gonna be real quick. There's a delay in the live stream.
Okay.
At dawn, the dawn of Orion, and a new era of American space exploration.
List of people who ask.
Okay.
Funny.
So
Okay, you gotta fix that delay real quick. That's gonna be really annoying.
Okay, we have on our panel tonight.
What is that ear rape?
Woog, please, Woog. Okay, we have Woog.
Hey.
We have Kenobi. We have David Willis.
Hi.
We have
Hello.
Ellen Moose.
Dawn of Orion.
We have Freddy here.
This is gonna be a cringy video.
And
Hey,
of
guys.
course, who could forget Mr. Fu?
Nobody. I'm here.
Okay, well, I guess we'll get into the first segment here on the podcast. Artemis EVA concept of operations. It's being shown right now. You'll see it go by on the images here.
A summary about phase 1.
I think Woog is live from the Langley Wind Tunnel.
I think so too. Or, well, it's very windy outside, like in Australia, so he's probably standing in the most windiest spot he could.
No. He's testing his glider in the wind tunnel.
Oh.
So with the EVA thing, I think the most interesting point that is not actually mentioned in that entire article, at least visually depicted, is that they want the astronauts to be wearing the suits while in the vehicle for both descent, EVA, and ascent. And nothing has really shown how they're going to utilize that or make that possible.
Really?
But
So
why
they're going to
though?
be So they're going to be wearing the EVA suits during like
Yes.
descent and launch.
Yes.
Wouldn't
so it's
they
supposed,
just
it's supposed
use?
to be duration.
Wouldn't they? Isn't that like the Apollo thing? Like,
Yes.
so, yeah, it's like, is this? I forgot what I was going to say.
So if you look at anything they've posted, everything they've shown is EVA. Nothing is actually in the vehicle. If you scroll through the entire PDF that they published, nothing shows them in the vehicle. And considering that they've done a jump from having like physical toggles for switches and actually having touchscreen stuff, I think that would potentially be really annoying.
Is this for?
Woog.
What's this for? What's this for? Like the Orion, or is it this for like
So
commercial
it's
crew probe?
all lunar lander type stuff. So like landing
I
vehicle.
haven't had time to read it.
They were in the pumpkin suits in Orion, right?
Yeah, but imagine wearing EVA suit in Orion. Good old Apollo.
They will wear the pumpkin suit while in the lander though, and then they'll only put the EVA suit on right before they go out.
No, so that's what I'm saying is that the concept is what they're portraying here is that it's the same suit that they wear on descent, EVA, and ascent for a
It'd be
lunar lander.
lunar lander.
Just like
it'd be more
just like
logical.
Apollo. The Apollo, you wore the white suit with the fishbowl heads the entire flight, except right before you were about to get into the lander or get out of the lander, and then you would put on the EVA suit.
Except that's not what was recently released. The whole EVA or XEVA thing is saying that they are going to wear those suits throughout the duration. So let me find the article.
If it's
And
Ars
even
Technica, then
no, it's not Ars Technica. Look at the the PDF that was just posted.
where is it in the
one that was listed in the itinerary for what we're talking about?
Is
There's
an
just
itinerary?
Yeah, the first
Or-
link.
Yeah.
Where?
there's a thing called scrolling up.
I mean, I'm not gonna like link you to every single thing.
Dude, no, I don't even know where the itinerary is.
Let me post it.
Okay, so go to the Michael's people, who's posted a couple times.
Okay, I'm in Michaelis. How far up do I scroll?
I posted it again.
Saw it.
Okay.
Are they still planning on doing the suit port, or was that abandoned?
Well, you
Okay.
gotta fix your ear rape, Mike.
Okay. So
Yeah, I have him muted right now.
Were they still planning on doing suit ports, or was that concept abandoned?
okay, is
I
it?
don't know,
Did you
I hope
get,
they
wait?
do.
Hold on. I think I know
It's
where you
still a
messed up.
concept.
Did,
It's still a
is the
concept.
thing that you're talking about under general and durations?
How do you even?
No, I'm trying to. Okay, so someone talked about it earlier in one of the posts here. I'm trying to find it. There was
'Cause
an
I
official
think-
statement that said specifically that XEVA is trying, or they're trying to set it up as where they are keeping the suits throughout the duration of the trip. The same suit through the entire duration of descent, EVA, and ascent. Let me find it.
But why
Well,
though?
I think what you might is this not like it says rear entry, not re-entry. You know that, right?
No, I know it's not. It's talking about lunar surface. There's no entry or re-entry.
Okay, just making sure that you're not confusing that.
Nope, I'm
Okay.
not.
Going back to the port like suit. I think there's still a concept idea for the Mars rover. Like, but they still haven't been like for the crude one, the adventure shit, I forgot the name of it, but for the eventual the crude version, if they make when they go to Mars, the crude version type rover, I can't remember. What's the name of it? No, I forgot what I'm talking about.
Thank you, Woog. Very cool.
But the one in the photo, Elon posted the port suits, if what they're called.
Yeah.
They're still a concept idea.
I feel like that could be useful for Artemis.
Suit ports were a concept during Constellation, and I don't think they've been revisited since, other than SEV.
And by suit ports, what do you mean by suit ports?
Look in the photo I sent.
SEV and Altair had ports where the suits would go, and the astronauts would just go into the suits, and the suits would then detach from the lander or rover.
Well,
Yeah,
that's still
in lieu of an
possible
airlock.
with these suits because these are rear entry suits. You take the
My biggest-
backpack, you like pull the backpack off and then get in the suit. So in theory, you could design a system that incorporates the two together. So that if you're like on the pressurized rover that they have a few pictures up here, you could have that on the back and then get in like that.
My biggest question
Or-
is like, how do you shut the back of the suit from that? That's my biggest. How did I
Same way
shut
you-
the back?
They could have the suits on the side of the lander, so you could crawl in, so you don't have to wear the suit during descent.
I'm fairly certain they won't. I just read the whole thing and I didn't see anything about them wearing it inside the lander.
So then,
Because-
what is
because-
Mr. Fu referring to?
I don't know because you got to think about practicality here. These are big, bulky suits. You want some dexterity when dealing with lunar
Yeah.
timber.
Exactly.
The PDF makes it clear that the astronauts will not be wearing the EVA suits while they are landing the vehicle, as on day one, they pretty much spend a lot of the day just preparing for the EVA, and that includes putting on the spacesuit.
Okay, are we ready to talk about that dumpster fire that is Ars Technica or no?
There,
Uh,
I just posted what
Send me the
Woo
article. I need to read it.
shared earlier. It's right there.
Save your brain cells. Don't read it.
what's it about?
I want a live
Look
reaction.
in Mike
to this.
Liz.
Yeah, I'll read it.
I'm reading it for the first time.
Okay.
Right off the bat, NASA is close to finalizing a plan. Hasn't it been kind of finalized for a while?
It was finalized until Berger said it wasn't, and then everyone started yelling about it.
Wait, so what was I gotta start reading more.
No, don't read Ars Technica any more than you already don't. It's just garbage, 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 hot garbage.
Yeah.
Oh god,
I
no.
think when it says
That's a
that a plan is nearly finalized, they're talking about how the new HEO Associate Administrator or whatever it's called, Douglas Lavero, is doing basically like an investigation of the entire Artemis program to get more accurate dates for Artemis 1, 2, and 3.
Every
Now,
part of my body just ached when I read January 2023 Artemis.
but you see, that's just not
Oh my
like
god.
that's not true at all, though. Okay, so here's the thing, right? At the current pace, CS2 is scheduled to be finished in about a year from, like 2 years from now, around this time in 2022, and the launch date was going to be in like September. So the core stage was going to be finished 6 months before the launch date. So pushing it, there is no there it is not in the critical path right now. So there should be no reason to push it back to 2023.
I think it's schedule margin just in case the green run does not go as planned.
That's a good point. It could just be schedule margin, but then again, why on earth would Burger post that? It's so awful.
Oh, what's the status of Core Stage 2 right now? Obviously, the LOX tank and the
Okay, so
tank
okay,
are
I
done,
do
but
have news on this. I do have news. The forward skirt is done and ready for integration, and recently
that's
the inner tank has just been finished and is ready for integration as well. All that really needs to be done for the forward skirt, for the forward join, is the LOX tank needs to finish getting needs to have the Sophie applied to it, and then it needs to finish all the checkouts it has to do after that, and then the forward join can begin. And then I think the hydrogen tank is a little further behind than the LOX tank, and then I do not know anything about the engine section. But that's where we are on the core stage 2. And I also know that Teledyne, the people who make the launch vehicle stage adapter, have said that they have the panels, but they have not started welding them yet. I
so
actually talked to them on Twitter, and that's what they told me.
so basically the next thing up is the orangening.
Well, the oranging has technically already begun, as the inner tank and the forward skirt are already orange. They aren't orange yet, but they've been orange.
I mean, for the LOX tank and hydrogen.
That is, I think they're priming it next, and then they'll orange it.
That's good.
Recently, they've been making some progress on Artemis 3's Orion spacecraft. It's beginning to take shape.
I saw that. That's pretty cool.
Do we
Yeah, I
have any
saw that
pictures
too.
of that?
When can we expect the third core stage to start construction?
Right now, it's being built, but only as spare parts for Core Stage 2. And if those parts aren't needed for Core Stage 2, they'll be used for Core Stage 3.
What I want to know is, I know they did a test to destruction of the hydrogen tank for the static test vehicle, right? But did they do a test to destruction for the LOX tank? And if not, could that LOX tank technically be repurposed for Artemis 2 because it is an identical copy of the real thing? Or
So
is it too far
basically,
damaged?
That kind of reminds me of how Challenger used to be a structural test article before they found out that converting Enterprise was too expensive.
That's what I think they might do with some parts of the SL. So I always say, like, they actually built 3 space launch systems, one of which will never fly, but that might not be true if they reuse the LOX tank.
This could also be good as like a contingency if Artemis 1 doesn't go well.
But
Wait, I
it
got.
all depends
Well,
on what the status of that liquid oxygen tank is. If they did a test to destruction, we can just throw this to the side. But if there isn't a test to if it wasn't a test to destruction, how badly damaged is it? And can it be, if there is damage, is it extensive or is it like minor? And then depending on that, can it be refurbished, or if it does it even need to be refurbished? And then after that, can it be repurposed into a flight tank?
Speaking of reuse, apparently back in the old days, the exploration flight 1 capsule be reused on.
Yeah, it was supposed to be reused for the Ascent Abort 2, but as we know, they never did that.
Speaking of reuse, when are we going to get exploding starship powered propulsion?
Hey, isn't
Yeah.
that what Orion Drive is? Essentially, it's just explosions.
Yeah. I got one question. With the SRBs for the SLS, they're gonna be recovered, aren't they?
No, they aren't.
I don't
No,
think they are.
recovering
not
them
like-
is too much effort, and it's not
So-
really worth it.
So they're not like the shuttle ones, what would come down parachutes.
No,
No, because-
adding the extra segment means they're going too fast to be safely recovered.
Ares
Okay.
1X is offended by your lack of mentioning him.
Well, Ares 1X also got offended when one of its parachutes didn't work and it broke the booster.
Ares 1X also got offended when it launched after Ares was canceled.
Oh, did it really?
The Ares 1X first stage was actually found with a bunch of dents.
Yeah, because it had 3 parachutes, but one or two of the parachutes didn't work properly, and it crashed down really hard. But it didn't break; it just dented.
Alright, so someone commented on my video
SRB
about
propulsion landing.
the starship explosion, and they said back to the drawing board. I think it's back to like welding education board.
No, back to
Well, Starship
learn how to weld.
See,
Back to
that
womb.
tweet I made.
Well, no, it's
like,
not learning how to weld. It's different. It's different materials, so that's one of the reasons why they're experiencing issues. It's not like the welders are incompetent. It's that nobody has experience welding with the particular type of stainless steel that they're using. So it's going to be a learning process.
It's not like welding stainless
Revert
steel
to
is foreign
launch day.
concept. Literally,
No.
they use stainless steel on the Centaur.
Right, but you are misunderstanding that there are different types of stainless steel. This is a type of stainless steel that has never been used before.
This is also
So
SpaceX and not ULA.
Yeah, that's right. They like exploding things and not reliable things.
And they're also
Yeah.
building it outside.
I meant that
Yeah.
as like they haven't used it before either. They haven't used any kind of stainless
It's
steel
literally
as far
a
as I-
type of stainless steel that has never been used before.
Well,
Although
maybe
what
they
I
should
am
use
glad is
something that
that
has
they
been
are
used
indeed
before and they
making a
experience better
vehicle
results.
assembly building.
But they can't because the stainless steel that exists does not have the properties that they are looking for. You don't understand metallurgy at all.
I understand metallurgy at
Hmm.
all. I know.
Clearly
I know
not.
what
If you think that you can just use any stainless steel that you can weld because it's weldable and
That's
not
not what I
understanding
said.
that it has
I
yeah,
don't
that's exactly what you
I don't
said.
think they'll ever get it to work.
That's fine. That's why they're testing.
I don't think it'll work. I just don't. And,
Cool.
and that's why I said
You're
they
not
should use
qualified
something
to really
else.
speak on it, so that's cool. Your opinion, with a grain of salt, means very little.
Hey, that's why I said I think, not I know.
I think Starship will work out, but it'll just take a while for them to sort out some of these issues.
Man,
I should probably.
I think it'll
rephrase.
just be
I
cargo.
don't think it will work
the
with
end.
stainless steel
Why not?
I think it will.
because I do remember them saying they like most rockets are a lot of rockets use friction stir welding, right? But they said that they don't plan on friction stir welding Starship. And so I don't know how they're going to weld it, but I also know that the way they are welding it is not friction stir welding, which is pretty much the industry standard.
You're right. You don't know how they're gonna weld it. So let's just
So-
end it at that. This is
No,
a
no,
stupid
no.
conversation.
Imagine aluminium.
But like I'm saying, I don't know how they're going to do it, but I don't
Exactly.
think they really know either.
Exactly, which is why they're testing. That's the point of testing. Period.
So
You're getting quite
I've
defensive over this, man.
I'm
I'm
not.
just saying,
No,
I'm kind of skeptical.
exactly, and that's fine.
Here we go with the argument again.
I'm not having an
Self-fighting.
argument.
Here we go with the.
I'm just
You,
explaining my
Here we go.
skepticism, and you're striking it down like I'm trying to
Yeah.
argue with you.
you are
Here we
because
go with the
I
argument
explained my
again.
skepticism of why I don't really care what the industry standard is because they're not doing the industry standard. So why do I care what they say?
You don't have to care. I'm just saying my opinion, man.
Yep.
Less than an hour in, and we've already started a starship debate. Nice.
Look, this is my opinion, and I'm not trying to argue. I don't think it will work the way they want to do it. They'll find that out sooner or later. That's my opinion. It's not. We're not trying to argue anything. Okay.
Oh yeah, it
s-
definitely.
so about the EVA concept of operations. In one slide, it mentions an environmental thing about ISRU. I kind of forgot. So what's
there,
that about?
there is a specific slide that says the single suit architecture for lunar surface descent, ascent, and EVA. So it talks about how they're using a single suit concept, which they've already given the EVA suit. So what I was talking about is they aren't showing how they're gonna adapt that EVA suit to be used as an IVA suit. And it's like a single one slide Jedi hand wave when they already have like a pretty established EVA prototype. I'm surprised that they didn't show how they're going to convert that EVA suit to be an IVA suit. It's
Well-
like a single one slider.
Well, the thing is, though, an EVA suit is designed for the extremes of space flight outside of the system. An IVA suit is designed for a depressurization event inside a spacecraft. So, in theory, an EVA suit would be well equipped to do what an IVA suit can do, but it just doesn't have that dexterity. So, I'm just thinking here that what they could do is they could have two pairs of gloves, and one of them would be the IVA glove that would be fairly dexterous, and the other would be the EVA glove, and that would eliminate a lot of like the problems that they'd have by having two suits if they can just make the suit that they already have slightly more dexterous to do more actions with, and then you don't have to carry the IVA suit down with you at all. Just a lot less weight to the mass and a lot more weight to the lunar surface.
Yeah,
That's
I agree. I'm surprised. My whole point was this whole presentation that they give in this one like slideshow. I'm surprised that they didn't show something like that. It's very visual based, and all they showed was an EVA suit with like a little blurb to the IVA. I really want to see more of the IVA.
I just want to see more of the inside of
What-
Orion. There's not really that much good pictures inside of it, man.
Yeah.
Like, give me that IVA Kerbal view. That's what I want.
Wait, can
Uh,
anyone go and see Orion? Like,
I think they have tours, but I'm not sure.
Yeah, and like weird mock-ups that probably may not really represent.
The mock-up that they have, I remember what they said. It's called a medium fidelity mock-up, which means the parts that need to look exactly like Orion look exactly like Orion, but nothing else does. And the parts that look exactly like Orion is the interior of that mock-up looks pretty much exactly like what it will when crew fly on it in real life, because that's what they're using to test the crew is that interior. So they have a radiation shelter mock-up, they have a bathroom mock-up, they have seats, the inside of that mock-up is pretty close to the inside of, say, that Orion on screen right now.
I might.
In looks. In reality, it's very far from what the inside of that Orion actually is.
Mhm.
It's a functional mock-up for the crew.
Hold up, I'm about to apply for an internship at Glenn so I could see Orion.
Well, you better hope
might-
you get hired in the next 2 to 5 days because it's going back to KSC in a few weeks.
I might ask my cousin to like inquire about it. Like if wait, where is it going? Oh, where is it now? Like which state's it in now? Because like, I can't remember.
It's in Ohio.
Actually, I might not ask my cousin. My cousin's in Florida. One of them's in Florida.
Well, in a few days, Orion will be back in Florida.
So actually, I might ask him if like, other than that, the rest of them, like the rest, like of my cousins are in the US, are in bloody New York.
Don't think any of the positions I applied for were at Glenn, but I'm gonna.
Woog, what was your question again? I honestly don't remember.
Island.
He's walking in the wind.
Well, do you want silence or do you want Langley wind tunnel?
Yeah, that's exactly.
Yeah. I think silence is better.
Woog
I
is
don't know,
typing.
the wind is kind of comforting.
Ryan begin eye testing. We went over that.
Someone's mowing the grass outside my place.
Attitude
I just
control
checked.
motor test. Did we go over that?
Yeah, I mean, there's not really much to go over. We've seen it before. It's the final test of the attitude control motor.
But it is. I mean, I could watch that all day. It looks so cool.
Oh yeah, I'm not gonna lie. I could die watching that. That's beautiful. I mean, I could also die watching it if I was that close in real life. I probably would die. I'd probably not live very long.
I mean, technically speaking, I could die watching anything. If we're gonna be honest here, like.
I mean, if someone just walks up to you,
Yeah.
You could
Wouldn't be
die
alive much longer.
just. You could just die now. Not really, but.
You could die
could just-
watching Artemis 1.
You could just drop dead anytime. It happened to me once.
Mando just asked if ISRU is like India.
What? ISRO? Yeah, I think so.
We run out of things.
I can
can
say
make
what
a bunch of things to talk about. We haven't even gotten into the meat of that burger article. Hold on.
Hey, I
I
have
was just
one
gonna
question.
say-
I have one question relating to this Discord. There's the person in there who was named Eric Berger. Who do you think he is, actually?
I think it's Eric Berger, but like the side of him that nobody sees. I'm kidding. It's someone that is I don't know.
Imagine if it actually was Eric Berger.
Okay, let's
It's
look at
Eric
this plan.
Berger,
So
local
I've got the
hero and
plan-
meteorologist.
I've got the plan up here right now, and I'm going to read it off what it says. So, it says April 2021, Artemis 1 uncrewed flight of Orion on a Block 1 SLS. That's true. We know that to be true based on what NASA has said. Here's where things start to get interesting, though. January 2023, Artemis 2 crewed flight of Orion around the moon on a Block 1 SLS. And then August of 2024, Artemis 3 integrated lunar lander to launch to the moon on a Block 1B SLS.
Where did he get this information?
I will get into that in just a second. And then September 2025, October 2024, Artemis 4, a crewed launch of Orion for the human moon landing on a Block 1 SLS. So it gets us to the moon in 2024. Now, from there, things start to get really interesting because now we have in September of 2025, the science mission and the launch of the Europa Clipper launches on a Block 1 SLS. Following that, the next SLS launches in June 2026, Artemis 5, a crewed flight of Orion to the moon on a Block 1B of SLS. It doesn't say what it's carrying in the payload fairing. June 2027, a science mission launch of the Europa lander on a Block 1B SLS. Europa lander. Okay, so that's interesting. We'll get to that in a second. Then August 2028, Artemis 6 crew flight of Orion to the moon on a Block 1B SLS. February 2029, Artemis 7 cargo mission to the moon on a Block 2 SLS. August 2029, Artemis 8 crewed mission of Orion on a Block 2 SLS. So this is a crewed Block 2 rocket. February 2030, Artemis 9 cargo mission on Block 2 of an SLS. and then Artemis 10 crew mission on a Block 2 of SLS in August of 2030. So that's so up until October 2024, it's fairly normal. We get an extra SLS flight for an integrated lunar lander. But what's interesting is that that is the proposal of Boeing, which means let's give Berger the very, very, very doubtful benefit of the very, very of the doubt. Benefit of the doubt. Let's say Berger was actually right. This is the plan that would go down if NASA selects the Boeing lander because they want to launch an integrated lunar lander on an SLS, send it to the moon, and then land that way. And that gets us 2 Artemis launches in 2024 with 2 space launch systems. But it also gives us a Block 1B, which is very difficult to see happening because the White House has requested to pull back funding for the Block 1B SLS. And then what's even more interesting is down at February of 2029, they bring out the Block 2 SLS. Now, the thing is, the Block 1B will use 2 different kinds of boosters. It'll start out using, if it exists at all, it will start out using the regular space shuttle derivative boosters. But then a little bit later, it will start using the BOL, the booster obsolescence and life extension boosters, which are a redesign of the fuel and the boosters used for the shuttle and the first few flights of the SLS. That actually is, I think, more efficient and more thrust. But I do not think that's what the boosters of the Block 2 will be. So that's interesting that this proposal has a Block 2 in it because that means we'll be seeing completely new boosters, be those what they are. And then it says here we'll get Europa Clipper on a Block 1 of an SLS, and then interesting, June 2027, a lander on the Block 1B.
So, are they going to be integrating a lander with the Orion?
No, because SLS is actually does not have a high TLI capacity like the Saturn V. The Saturn V, the reason it worked was because most of the mass of the Apollo stack, being the lander, the command module, and the service module, was the fuel of the service module. It then had a very small command module and then a very small lunar lander, so that that service module could put that whole thing into orbit around the moon. Now, the Orion service module is a little bit wider. It uses the same engine, although a derivative, but it is shorter and has to push a lot bigger capsule, and more space of that service module is dedicated to life support than fuel. So it actually does not have enough delta V to put itself into low lunar orbit, even though the service module is around the same size. So this would be 2 launches. One launch to launch an integrated lander into I think it would be somewhere near a gateway orbit, and then Orion would go up on a second SLS, dock to it, and then the lander would take itself all the way into lunar low orbit and land there. That's what I think the Boeing proposal is, and I don't like it because it gets rid of Gateway. And my whole argument for Gateway is if you have Gateway, it's almost impossible to cancel the lunar return. Once you have Gateway established, if it uses multiple companies, multiple providers to build it, and multiple international partners, because it has so many international and intercooperative missions at once, just like the International Space Station, it will be really hard for one single government to cancel it. And that's why I think NASA's choosing it, because it has that aspect where in the fine print, it's really going to be hard for the United States to cancel it once it's been built. And
But
so
has any other country ever signed on to be
They
part of Gateway?
Canada's building an arm,
Russia
and I
did
think
too.
ESA is building a module,
Russia's building an airlock module.
and ESA is building a module as well.
Wait, who's
And
building
there's
an
also
airlock module?
JAXA.
I'm sorry, what?
Roscosmos is building an airlock.
So this will be similar. This will be like a smaller version of the ISS around the moon. But once it gets built, because there are multiple countries involved, the funding and the upkeep of the station are no longer the sole responsibility of the United States government, but are now the responsibility of the United States government working with other governments who might not want to cancel it. This is why this is why something like Skylab didn't last very long, while the International Space Station it's just going wild with the missions. Even after the space shuttle was canceled, it's still going strong. And that's what will happen with SLS.
Yeah.
Once the gateway is established, even after SLS gets canceled eventually, because it will, no rocket lasts forever. If there's other commercial launchers, like say a smaller vehicle with enough delta V to do it, launching on say a Falcon Heavy, you could foreseeably see after SLS on Orion build it up and SLS gets canceled the way the shuttle did, you could foreseeably see other providers launching crew to the station, and then we at that point would permanently be at the moon. Here's the problem with the Boeing proposal, though. It gets rid of the gateway early on, which makes it really easy to cancel the program, because to make the program work, you only need one rocket, the SLS. And once you cancel that rocket, you no longer can go to the moon. That's why the Saturn V didn't work very well, because the second you cancel funding for the Saturn V, you no longer can go to the moon. But once you have the gateway built, you cannot cancel funding for the gateway, because you can't if you cancel the funding for Orion and SLS, how are you going to get to the gateway?
Yeah, but the international funding is not as even spread as
Right, but
you're making it sound.
No, I know it's not, but the thing is, it's there. The funding from the international community is there, so the United States government no longer has sole responsibility over the station.
But so look at ISS. Like, look at the percentages of who's actually paying for ISS.
Oh,
so
we're paying most of
we're
that.
paying overwhelming majority, and
Of course we are.
Russia has skimped on a lot of their obligations for the ISS, because they say, well, we're launching you into space, but we're also paying them to launch us into space. So really, they have like a net zero amount that they're spending on the ISS.
They're also, I think, currently they're building another module for the station right now as well.
Right.
And so I think that might be where a fair bit of theirs is going. And then also, I do think you're right. They are skimping a little. So once we get commercial crew up and running and they don't have an incentive so much, they're going to start paying their fair share as well.
Wait, isn't the ISS getting like more modules?
It is getting commercial modules, yes.
Yeah.
It will be getting commercial modules.
It's Axiom time.
Like Bigelow Industries and everything. Yeah.
And then once the
Axiom
station gets
time.
canceled in the 2030s or late 2020s, somewhere around there, then Axiom will disconnect from ISS and become its own space station. And I think it's going to take one of ISS's modules with it.
Yeah.
I love Axiom so much. This proposal is just so cool.
It's epic.
I don't know
And
how
the
I feel about it. I have a thing about commercial, like tourism of space. I don't really like it too much, but you know what? Whatever floats your boat. I don't like it, but you know.
May I add on to your argument about Gateway? I agree with that, but I also would like to add that there's a lot of valuable science that could come out of it.
Oh yeah.
Well, look, the science
being
route,
in a different realm. Yeah.
There's two routes you can go. If you want to get there quickly, if you want to get there quickly and do the science and all that good stuff, you really only need something like a Saturn V. You launch like a MOLAB. That was a proposal that you would launch it on a Saturn V, land that on the moon, and then launch a lander and land that on the moon with a second Saturn V, and the crew stay on there for 2 weeks to a month, getting a bunch of science done like that.
So
Then
basically,
what?
So basically, Jamestown from For All Mankind.
Similar to that. I haven't seen that, so I guess I was spoiled a bit there. But the Saturn V, it's a single launch system, and it would get you to the moon very fast without any pit stops, and it's very efficient. Now there's the other route, that's the gateway route, and that's the route you go not for its scientific value, not because it's the easiest way to go, but it's because it's the politically the smartest way to go, Because, like I said, once you've got international partners involved, it's going to be incredibly difficult to cancel the program. Which is the goal of Artemis, is to make a sustainable lunar return. And when they say sustainable, you've got people like Zubrin saying that's not sustainable. It's a lunar toll booth. We're not talking about sustainable surface operations. We're talking about sustainable in the sense that we can't leave the moon anymore. And that's what Gateway does, is it sacrifices our ability to go to the moon fast for our ability to stay at the moon. And it does that by engaging in the political systems and finding a loophole through there that would allow it to stay forever.
See, I
basically,
disagree. Okay, go ahead.
So basically, Gateway is the gas station of it, pretty much.
It's
You
not really
sorta
even a
could-
gas station. It's more like duct tape that will make sure that you don't go anywhere else. Like, you don't leave the moon once you're there. It patches up the bridge. Like, the bridge was made with Apollo, but then it was broken by the US Congress when they had the space shuttle. Gateway is the duct tape that's going to fix the bridge, or I guess it's the flex tape that's going to fix the bridge, and we'll get to cross forever now after it's been flex taped up.
I saw this space program in half.
To show you the power of flex tape, I sawed the Saturn V in half and made the space shuttle.
So I disagree to an extent, because I really don't think that the Saturn V was the efficient way of getting to and from the moon. I think that it was the inefficient way. Like you said, it was the quick fix. It's a single contained system. A single Saturn V launch platform could get you from the surface of the
That's what
Earth
I mean by
to the
efficient.
moon
I
and
don't
back.
mean
But
it was like the
that's
most
not
fuel
efficient, though. No, but efficiency speaks on more than just fuel efficiency, and I think the Lunar Gateway is the way of being efficient. I don't think it's just political means of like locking people into why you have the moon. I think you can legitimately say that the efficient way of going to and from the moon and having a sustained presence on the moon is having an established, I guess, gateway or presence that's around the lunar surface. It's not the lunar surface, but the lunar sphere of influence. So
and that's what they're proposed. That's the official reason given for Gateway, but the real reason is what I was giving before, is that it's the smartest way to go when dealing with politicians and politics. It's the smartest way to go, but it does have that practical element to it. Because
having established
Apollo
infrastructure is better than just
really was just the quickest way we could get to the moon.
it was a one-off. No mission was dependent on the other. You would just do your mission on your Saturn V regardless, and it'd be fine.
Apollo 11. Apollo 11 was sort of dependent on Apollo 10.
Yeah, from a test standpoint. You're right, from a testing standpoint.
An abort test over where Apollo 11 would have landed.
But physically speaking, you never needed any other craft to do it.
Correct.
They were self-contained systems.
Well, now I'm trying to think. I'm trying to think of an exception, but I don't think I'll find one.
There isn't one, because every single Saturn launch was independent of any other Saturn launch, except for when you started hitting Skylab territory.
Yeah, because those were Saturns. Those were all Saturns, but they were different Saturns.
Yep.
I was scrolling through and I saw an article about Axiom Station, and the thumbnail had Greta Thunberg in it. I was so confused.
Clickbait, ultimate clickbait.
Yeah, I'll send it to the Michael's people.
Oh, Woog's not here. I was going to answer his question.
Woog has gone offline. Actually, no, he hasn't. He's just gone idle.
Yeah, he had a question a while ago, and I have the answer, but he's not here, so.
Give it to me, and I'll spam it in his DMs.
So he was asking about the ISRU. That stands for In Situ Resource Utilization. So the deployment of environmental monitoring stations was basically looking at the right conditions to pull resources off the moon to use for potentially refueling craft. That's what issue was.
Or I'll just tell him tomorrow at school, because I can't be bothered to type.
You go to the same school as Woog? You gross, real life.
I don't like it. Oh.
You don't like
I end
Woog?
up.
Wow, okay.
No, it's not that I don't like Woog. It's that.
Instead, he doesn't like Woog.
Like, I don't like him, but I don't want
He smells funny.
Oh.
He smells like Australia.
I smell like. Oh,
He's like, I smell like
Well-
Australia.
let's. That's gonna need some heavy editing out.
Hey, do we want to talk about Starship's second flight?
Yeah, it used the Orion method.
Hey, I
The
thought we
Orion
banned
pulse
that.
drive.
Dude, it went up
Mm.
30 meters. That's a pretty successful hop.
Hey, I
Very
didn't. It's trying to become the N1 and beat it for largest man-made nuclear explosion in history.
Or it's trying to be like the N1. Massive failed. Just massive rocket fail.
I wonder how many starships will fail before SpaceX stops pursuing this.
No
I
starship has
actually-
failed, though. I mean,
I swear, if one fails, I actually think SpaceX will cancel it.
I doubt that.
Actually, no. I think if 10 failed, then they would get. They wouldn't. They'd be compelled to cancel, or if they'd have to cancel it if they launched one, it failed, and there was like a lot of people died.
That's
launched one.
that's what I think, because
Yeah.
NASA the only reason they continued after Apollo 1 was because they could not be upstaged by the Russians again. But Challenger
No.
was different. There was serious consideration about canceling the space shuttle after Challenger, and even more consideration after Columbia, to the point that they actually did cancel the shuttle after Columbia, but they just had to have it finish building the ISS. Most people
They
don't know,
delayed it.
but the shuttle was
They didn't
supposed to
cancel it.
fly into the 2030s. After Challenger, it was supposed to fly into the 2030s, but after Columbia, it just needed to finish building the space station, and then they were going to cancel it. And
well, you got
that's
to remember
why-
also. You got to remember too, when Challenger failed, they still were trying to develop updates to the system. So
They
it
were.
hadn't met what they had originally intended, and it never did. But when at the time that Challenger had failed, they still had aspirations for meeting the original mission requirements. So of course they weren't going to cancel after Challenger. They just had to figure out where they messed up. But shuttle
But-
never
but
actually progressed.
Columbia actually, it was bad enough that they did cancel the program. They just let it finish the one thing it had left to
It's
do,
not,
and then it was done.
it's not a cancel though. It was delayed for 2 years, but it wasn't.
It was a
canceled.
delayed shutdown. Delayed
Like
shutdown of the
they cut the program. That's a better word. They cut the program. They put in, because it was supposed to fly till the 2030s. Columbia happened, and they cut the program to just the ISS, and then it was done.
I firmly believe that would have happened regardless of Columbia. I think Columbia helped speed along the process, but the shuttle program never met its requirements, and they didn't want it to begin with. So I'm pretty sure that they would have decided not to use it anyway. It basically stopped being useful, like you said, because the ISS. But I don't think it was just because of Columbia.
That's right. It was beginning to it did begin to show its age, because it was having problems before Columbia, but it was like an unspoken truth.
Well,
It
I
was like,
mean,
yeah, it'll fly
it
till the
wasn't even
2030s,
unspoken.
right?
They didn't.
Right? It'll
When was the
fly
last
till
time?
2030s.
When was the last new shuttle built?
Endeavor. I don't know when that was built, but that was
Yeah.
built right after Columbia. But they
Was
were
it
only,
after? I
only
thought it was
supposed,
before, but
there was only supposed to be 4 orbiters operational at any time. So you had Columbia, Challenger, Discovery, and Atlantis.
Woog, I answered your question. Woog, you weren't here for the short time where I answered your question.
But real quick, so there was Columbia, Columbia. I think Challenger was the second one, right? And then we had
I'm not
Discovery
sure.
and Atlantis. I'm not sure the order, but once Challenger failed, they built Endeavor, and then, because there were always supposed to be 4 operational at any time.
Yeah, but I don't think
then
they
with
built any after Challenger. I'm pretty sure that they were all actually built, just had not flown when Challenger event happened.
Endeavor was built, but not as a flight shuttle. It was, I don't remember what it was built as, but it was not a flight rated shuttle. They converted it to a flight rated shuttle after the Challenger disaster, because there were only going to be 4 flying at any time. They had only really space for 4 shuttles.
Yeah.
And so once Challenger went down, Endeavour was built. But once Columbia went down, that was pretty much the end of the program. So they didn't build another shuttle because they just needed it to finish building the ISS before Constellation was going to take it over. And as we all know, that went perfectly well, and nothing happened to Constellation. And the Ares 5 first flew this year, and Ares 1 first flew in 2015.
Yeah, my point is that the shuttle program was dead when they stopped building shuttles, and it was never going to last to the 2030s if they didn't build new shuttles.
Going back to what you said earlier about SpaceX possibly canceling Starship, at least in the cargo realm, if you look at Falcon 1, they actually stuck it through a lot of those failures, and when it was canceled, Falcon 9 was, I believe it was already flying by the time they started canceling Falcon 1.
Okay, hold on. This is interesting. This is interesting. Endeavour actually was built. It started being. I was wrong. I was very wrong. They started building it in 1987, and it first. They finished building it in 1990.
Yeah, I think what Woog was saying is it's parts that they had on hand, and they assembled a new shuttle with parts that were already constructed.
Because they will not put Endeavour in. They would not put Enterprise into space if it was the death of them.
No, because Enterprise was never meant to go into space.
But I mean, how cool would that have been? Liftoff of the USS Enterprise. Oh, that would have been so cool.
Star Trek moment. That just made me have a Star Trek moment just right there.
Flashbacks to Twitter complaining about the Space Force logo.
Twitter is stupid. They don't know anything.
Twitter is cancer. Metastasized cancer.
Twitter is where I go when I want to lose brain cells.
Yes. And gain, like, you go to Twitter
to get free clout.
Or if you want to say something and you deliberately want it knocked down.
Just watch. If I say, hey guys, did you hear about Starship blew up? I'm going to get like 5 comments just like, it was a test vehicle. It was a test vehicle.
I dare you. I absolutely
I made a promise. I made a promise that I wasn't going to talk about Starship because I would be beating a dead horse. Literally beating a dead horse.
I'm actually going to post that on my Twitter. I'm going to post that on my Twitter, and I want someone to comment on it and start the cancer. Just start the canceration. Like, start the death of my Twitter account.
No, you don't want that to happen. Trust me, I've had that happen several times. I posted the post I made about SN1 exploding, which was very funny because it was like a few days ago. The post I made, let's see, where was it? It was about the fanboys, and then everyone started coming in as like, no, blah 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 blah. And I'm like, bro, this isn't about the actual vehicle. It's about the fanboys.
I think that was the entire of Lab Parade just turning up.
It was fun. So here it is. It was actually 5 days ago. So here's an interesting question. Wait, it got 93 likes and 51 comments. Nice. Ask a SpaceX fanboy if SN1 is a real starship, and they will adamantly say it is. If SN1 then explodes catastrophically, every single one of them will shout, "It was a prototype. They meant to do it. It was a test." So which is it?
And even though it wasn't meant to happen, like that wasn't meant to happen.
So, I
7.
What are you doing, Mando?
5, 4,
3,
2, 1.
And
lift off at dawn.
The dawn of Orion. A new era. Space exploration.
So I went on Twitter and I searched NASA SLS to see what cringe came up, and sure enough, there was a David Will.
Oh wow. I'm gonna search that.
Hold up. Now I gotta search that. Hold on.
I have to search that as well.
Not till you filter out all the Chinese and Japanese tweets.
Okay, did you go to latest?
Yes, I went to latest.
You know,
the latest.
I go on Twitter. I don't even. I go on Twitter. I go on Twitter, and the first thing I see is just Star Trooper followed by Scott Manley.
Whoa,
like a
Scott
post from
Manley
Scott
there.
Manley.
Fly safe.
And then Trump.
Half of my notifications are Donald Trump tweets.
Hey,
like I don't.
Do you
even
know
read
something?
them.
In 2012,
we'll build a wall
Trump said something.
to keep The
if
aliens
the
out.
Dow Jones, if the Dow Jones like fell below like 1,000 points over in 2 days, the president should be impeached.
Well,
Hope that
let's put that into context. He's probably talking about if it was a normal day and the Dow Jones did that. But I
Yeah.
mean, it's not falling because of him. It's falling because there's this pandemic, this coronavirus. It really has
Pandemic.
nothing to do with Donald Trump. It's
No.
What does this have to do with
It'd be
Artemis?
if that happens,
the scenario in which he said that. He said
But he
that
was, I
because there
think-
was a
he
specific
also
event that
you
occurred.
got to remember he said that 8 years ago, almost a decade ago. I don't
Still
think.
said it.
At what point do we stop holding people to their words? How many
Never.
decades back do we
Never.
stop?
You
Okay.
hold people accountable for what they say.
I feel
Okay,
like
but,
discussing
except
politics is kind
there's
of
actually
cringe here.
a scientific reason why you shouldn't. I think it's every.
Yeah, I think
10
I'm gonna duck
years-
out, guys. Thanks for the fun. See you guys
every.
later.
Okay, see ya. But every
ya. Who's
10
going?
years, every single atom in your body gets replaced. So there is no atom in your body today that was the same atom 10 years ago. So are you the same person if none of your atoms from 10 years ago exist in you today?
Wait, that's interesting. No, you'd be not really. No.
Okay.
My logic is hurt now.
This. Let's think about this. You have a wooden ship, right? And then over time, it gets a little damaged. So you replace one of the boards with a new board. And then over time, you keep replacing boards until there are no boards of the original ship. And then you go back to all those old boards and build a ship out of them, which is the original ship.
I have a question for Woog.
Oh, Woog.
Let me voice. Actually, two things. One, you should do that video in a 3-part series. And two, can I voice it?
What video?
Neither of those are questions. Those are suggestions.
Which
What
video?
No.
The super long video.
What video?
Okay,
One I suggested, and the other one was actually a question because I said, "Can I voice it?" That's a question.
Okay.
Well,
Well, the thing is that your accent is a bit too thick.
That's racist.
Do you need a former president of the United States to voice the video?
maybe actually that'd be interesting. That would fool a lot of people. Getting
And now
yes.
the liftoff
President
of the
Obama
Space Launch
discussing
System
a-
rocket. You can see the two solid rocket boosters. They're right there firing their solid propellant. And in there you can see that there's a Force RS-25 main engines. Now
David,
these things are one of the most efficient engines in the rocket world. They produce 500 kilonewtons of thrust each and feed on liquid hydrogen from the liquid hydrogen tank. And the oxidizer they use is liquid oxygen. And this tank burns for about 480 seconds to get the ICPS and the Orion lunar capsule into orbit. From there, the Orion lunar capsule, on top of the interim cryogenic propulsion stage, will then fire its RL-10 engine to the moon. And once it gets there, Orion will insert itself using the AJ-10 propulsion module engine, insert itself into a eccentric orbit around the moon, and it will make 1 or 2 passes before it fires up its engine again to take it back to Earth. And from there, it will re-enter the Earth's atmosphere, and it will deploy parachutes and land safely in the Pacific Ocean. And that is Artemis 1, narrated by yours truly.
Thank you, David. Very cool.
You should just do a parody
Insert.
video of the SLS announcement with an Obama voiceover.
actually, that should be done. That actually should be done in an Obama voice, just to fool everybody.
I kind of want to make an Obama voice where what I want to do is I want to make a funny video where Obama endorses Donald Trump and just
Actually,
post it.
On
It would
Twitter,
be
post
so
it on Twitter.
confusing.
You know, you do
I,
that.
Barack Obama, fully endorse Donald Trump as president. He has done a great job.
You post it on YouTube. You post it on YouTube, and then you post it on Twitter.
No,
and
if I
just
post it on Twitter, I'd get murdered.
That's the point. To be
I don't want to get
no.
murdered.
I'll let me
Post it on
post.
YouTube where people actually have some common sense.
Oh, no, post. I'll let me post it on Twitter.
Bold
Let
of
me
you
post
to
it.
assume people on YouTube have common sense.
Have you been on Twitter? There's no common sense
I
there.
There's no
common
common sense
sense
on
on
YouTube
Twitter.
either.
Too
The
many people
only-
trying to argue with me that that ignited
I,
only
Barack
defense
Obama,
Twitter
am
is the
publicly
shotgun.
admitting that I am a big stinky poo-poo head.
Hey, that's not true. It's not poo-poo. Not poo-poo. That's very racist.
It is doo-doo.
Yeah, doo-doo. Call of Doo-doo. The games the kids are playing. That's the
The
Call of
only
Doo-doo
defense-
one, right?
The only defense to Twitter is the shotgun.
No, that's the worst idea.
Um,
Just go on Twitter and spout the most terrible things over and over again, and Twitter's just gonna block you off their website.
Alright, so last night I was
I-
watching the lab stream, and I looked down to read like a paragraph out of my textbook, and I just look up, and Starship is just.
Oh, let's have Obama narrate that. So, I was sitting there smoking a big one, and I see this thing just fly up in there. It goes,
Smoking a
boom,
big
and
one.
then I see it goes implode, and it falls onto its side and lands down on the ground. Well, the second it hits the ground, all the lights go out, and I hear a. At that moment, Starship no longer existed.
Hey,
I wonder
David.
how good my Obama voice actually is, because I can't tell.
It's
By our
actually pretty-
laughing, you
it's
should
similar.
tell that it's pretty good.
It's pretty
Like,
similar.
you know how you know how your voice sounds good to you, and then you listen to it in recording, and it's like the most awful thing ever. That's kind of what I'm
Yeah.
worried
Hey,
about.
David.
That happens to me.
Hey, David.
Yeah.
I dare you to make a Trump impression.
My Trump impression is the best, the greatest, most fantastic impression you've ever seen. It's
You sound like a
terrific,
character from
tremendous.
Wolverine.
I love it. It's so fantastic. No one can do a better Trump impression than I can. My impression
Twitter
is
was
the
having
best,
full
top
melt.
notch. You can't do better. Build the wall.
Twitter was going full meltdown over a tweet Trump said, like from 2012 and 2015, about how the Dow Jones, if they went like below 1,000 points in one day,
Okay, so can we not do politics?
Yeah,
Well,
talking
this
about
is
politics
we
is
literally
kind
did
of
a whole
cursed here.
segment about why the gateway is the most politically correct way, like not political correctness, but like the most correct way to go to the moon politically.
But that's involving
I mean, but like this is unrelated to
Doesn't matter, Woo.
Look, it doesn't matter because if you do Donald Trump half the time and Barack Obama the other half, it will totally mend itself out.
Hey, David.
Yes.
You should check the thing I posted on Michael's People and do that in an Obama voice.
No, I got a better one. And
What?
liftoff at dawn, the dawn of Orion, and a new era of manned spaceflight exploration.
And spaceflight exploration.
You just sound like John from SpaceX, but extremely nervous.
Yeah. Do you know what? How long the podcast's gone for 90 minutes? We have only like talked about like I think
we haven't
two
talked
topics.
about anything. We're
This
currently
podcast is cursed.
at about an hour.
Luke.
Because we really
Okay.
Yeah,
last
I
time
think
we
we
had
should
like a
end it
whole
now.
segment about the space shuttle abort system, and then like this time we've just done Obama impressions.
We
should actually
You know
get
what?
some sort of schedule.
We should actually go on schedule. So what's?
There's a schedule.
Luke.
Yes.
No, there isn't. It's called Move to the
Woo.
Off-Topic VC channel.
Luke.
What?
Do you have a TikTok?
What?
I'm just gonna tweet my Obama impression. Oh, perfect. The okay symbol, and I'll say I'll show you it sometimes. Actually, should I tweet that? Nah.
Should I
I'll
tweet that?
Look,
That's
the general rule of Twitter
Person with
is okay. if you
person
have
with
to think
muted
twice-
mic.
Here's a general rule of Twitter. If you have to think twice about tweeting something, do not tweet it.
if you have
Ever.
to think twice about tweeting something, then just tweet it.
No,
and
don't
just,
tweet
like,
it. That's the worst thing to do.
That's the best thing to do.
No, because actually I've done something like on Twitter once, and
Yeah, that didn't end up well. Like, I know someone who did something really shitty on Twitter.
My friend just tweeted it and said, "I am Anthony Fantano," and then Anthony Fantano retweeted.
Hey,
Wow.
so can anyone just recap what we've basically done in this podcast so far?
Politics.
Obama
Politics.
impressions.
Obama
Because like
oppression
I was
politics.
mostly expecting to discuss like EVA things.
Ingrams.
Okay, I'm gonna go and be back in about 10 minutes.
Okay.
Okay.
Who's Falcon Heavy faring on Twitter?
I'm just
He's a
gonna
guy.
say.
Why do you ask? He follows me on Twitter.
He seems kind of
Grimacing.
yes.
Dude, I tweeted early this morning, like right after I woke up. I said, "Enjoy this day. It won't exist for 4 years." You know what he replied? He replied, "A rocket just exploded, and you're laughing. You're laughing." Like, because he thought I was talking about the starship that exploded, and I just replied, "It's February 29th."
This guy in his bio, he has BTS stan. JK.
Like not everything I'm
Plot
gonna tweet is
twist.
gonna be.
It's David Willis.
Plot
No, it's
twist,
not
it's
me. The
Mando.
only parody account I have is Jim Bridenstine parody account, and I'm like not even gonna really do that anymore. I think I'm gonna delete it.
My
'Cause
main account's
if I
already a
delete it, I can then start criticizing people who have parody accounts, and that's what I want to do.
Well,
The
members
only
of
parody
the
account I
Artemis
have is like
server.
Space Launch System.
Okay. Let's start a segment. What on earth is the point of parody accounts? Like, let's be real. What's the point?
Memes.
Can we close things up for tonight, please?
Memes.
There is a parody account for Tory Bruno's teeth, and I'm not joking. What's the point?
The greatest parody account.
I will show you this. I will link it in Michael's people.
Flush.
Speaking of Tory Bruno, how about that Smarter Everyday video?
That was fantastic.
If someone
loved
made
every
the parody
second of it.
account for each of the SLS feed lines.
Don't create any more parody accounts, please. It's so awful. I hate it. Don't
We
do
need
it.
2 parody accounts, one
There
for
we go.
Tory
It's
Bruno's
got-
left
Bro,
tooth
bro,
and one
what
for
if
his
we had a
right
parody
tooth.
account?
It's got 4 followers already, and it says Chomp. Its bio is Chompin' SpaceX to bit. It's okay. That's actually funny. You know what? I'll follow this, but like only because it's kind of funny. Well, like, come on, what is this?
Where is it? Oh, Tory Bruno's
What
teeth.
if?
I hope Tory Bruno's following it. I really do. He's not. But
What if
Chompin'
we make a
SpaceX.
David Willis parody
Cold is
account?
making me chatter in response to Astra's weather.
Like, gosh, can we stop with the parody accounts? Like,
The
they don't
best parody account is no parody account.
they don't contribute to society at all.
Well, neither
What do
do
you
we.
mean?
Like, just
Tory
change
Bruno's
your
teeth
name
is
to a real
revolutionary.
name or something that isn't like a parody of something else. Do you know how many parodies there are of a fairing? A fairing. A fairing. You have several Falcon 9 fairings and several Falcon Heavy fairings on Twitter alone. Like, what even? If there's a parody of you already, why is you making another one?
There are literal parody accounts of those little marks that
I bet
appear
I can.
on boosters.
I can find anything.
Is there
I'm gonna
parody
search up
accounts for the
Falcon.
Black Arrow fairing? Asking for a friend.
Okay, name a part on a Falcon 9. Any part. Just name any part.
Dampeners on the landing.
Okay, Falcon 9 landing legs.
The dampers on specifically the dampeners on the landing leg.
Well, nobody. I hope that. Okay. Okay, so I'm gonna search up. Oh, is there not? I would be surprised if there isn't a Falcon 9. It says there's no people.
Hey, David. Hey,
I guess there
David.
is.
You know what? I'm just gonna make it right now just to spite you.
I will
David.
report it to Twitter. Don't even. Yes.
What if I make an Orion parody account and pair that with the SLS parody account and make them some sort of weird couple?
Well, I mean, there already is technically an Orion parody account on Twitter.
There is.
Speaking of which, did you know?
This video is sponsored by NordVPN.
This video was sponsored by Rage. Wait, no, I got a better one. This video was sponsored by Raid Shadow Legends.
This video was sponsored by the next man and the first woman on the
This
South Pole of the
Iran
moon.
nuclear deal was sponsored by Raid Shadow Legends.
This
This
video,
video was
is
sponsored by our
Me and the
international and
president of
commercial
Iran,
partners.
we actually dueled it out over a game
This
of
ad is
Shadow
sponsored
Legends,
by
and I
American
won, so the
astronauts
nuclear deal
launched
works.
from American rockets from American.
We will launch America. I can't do a Jim Bridenstine impression. I need to though.
Just
We
do it as
will launch
Obama.
American rockets on American soil.
Just do it as Obama.
We will launch American rockets from American astronauts on American soil.
From American
Guys,
astronauts.
can we wrap things
We're
up?
launching a rocket from Tory Bruno's teeth.
And you're watching the Disney Channel.
Can we wrap things up?
No.
I'm Jim Bridenstine, and you're watching
Please.
This is Obama, and you're watching the Disney Channel.
Please.
I'm CEO of Spin Launch.
My
We
name
need to
is
wrap
Barack
things up.
Obama, and you're watching the Disney Channel. Ba-da-ba-ba-ba-ba. Oh, that's
Well,
McDonald's.
guys,
Never mind.
that was the Artemis podcast. We'll
I am
see
Barack
you.
Obama.
We'll see you next time.
Barack Obama.
2 weeks from
Bill
now.
Nye.
Okay, so yeah.
Bye.
David,
No,
you should just read your
we
tweets.
haven't.
And as we leave the moon, we leave as we came, and God willing, as we shall return.